So Boris Johnson was meant to be interviewed by Laura Kuenssberg on BBC. She then says that she sent her notes to him by mistake instead of her team, and then ITV got the scoop, who have now sent out a clip, a highlight of what is coming.
You obviously talk about partygate. I got to those sections of the book and it seemed to me, well, in terms you basically say it wasn't a big deal. I regret apologising. Is that really your position?
No,
you regret apologising?
No.
That is what you say in the book.
Let me explain what I said, because if you look at Unleashed, as I say, there's plenty.
I've read it. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what it says. That it was basically a load of nonsense, and you regret apologising. Do you regret apologising to the Queen?
Let me give you my own.
Answer that. Do you regret apologising to the Queen?
Let me give you my own view.
Well, if you answer my question, let's then perhaps go on to have your view. Do you regret apologising to the Queen?
Look, I don't discuss my conversations with the Queen.
That wasn't my question. My question was, do you regret apologising to the Queen?
Let me explain what I meant by that observation. What I was trying to say there was, I think that the blanket apology, the sort of apology I issued right at the beginning, I think the trouble with it was that afterwards, all the accusations that then rained down on officials who'd been working very hard in Number 10 and elsewhere were thought to be true. And by apologising, I had sort of inadvertently validated the entire corpus.
I get that, but
and it wasn't fair on those people.
Okay, well, let's talk about Brexit. Is, as you say, a defining part of your legacy. It was chaos afterwards, as you acknowledge in your book. And you blame a lot of people for that. You blame David Cameron, you blame Theresa May later, you blame the EU. The one person you don't blame is you, and people will find that amazing. You told us that we should do this, and you hadn't devoted any serious thought to what came next.
Come on. So I wanted to win an argument, and I believed in freedom, and I believed that our country had a great, great future.
But you were the leader. You were leading us into this.
What we expected, and what I think everybody expected, was that the Cameron government, having called a referendum a yes-no choice for the people, leave remain choice for the people, would bring forward a white paper.
Why? He didn't believe it. What made you possibly think that would be the outcome?
Because every other European leader, when they hold referendums, decides, once the people have voted, decides what to do and stays in office. So it's not normal for the Prime Minister, having asked for a referendum vote, suddenly to evacuate the state.
Boris Johnson blames David Cameron for the chaos of Brexit. In his book, he concedes that Brexit delivered chaos. And he blames David Cameron, and he says it's because, as Prime Minister, when he called the referendum, he had a responsibility to stay on after the referendum and deliver a white paper and decide what to do. And, there's all very well saying that, but when you actually look back at what Boris Johnson did, there was a leadership election because David Cameron decided he didn't want to touch Brexit. Who can blame him? And Theresa May won that leadership election. And Boris Johnson did everything he could in his power to undermine her leadership, including sending a P45 to her at the conference. And it was all about becoming Prime Minister. And he concedes that in his interview. He wanted to win an argument, he says. Well, no, he just wanted to become Prime Minister, and he didn't care what he broke or what he did to get that high office, negotiated the Brexit that the most extreme Brexiteers wanted, like Bill Cash and Mark Francois, and he basically got that terrible Brexit over the line, which has fractured the United Kingdom and caused untold damage in Northern Ireland and throughout the entire country, and damaged the EU. And now, instead of just going off and earning millions as he is doing the speeches and everything else that he does, he now wants to rewrite history and try and get back into number 10 again. He thinks that the country is so stupid that they'll somehow believe all of his scapegoating and excuses and believe it was all everybody else's fault. Well, it just beggars belief what he will do. But the Conservative Party is so weak and the leaders that they've got are so poor that this intervention of Boris Johnson's will no doubt make the members feel that they want Boris Johnson back. He actually believes that if he'd remained Prime Minister, he would have won the election.
It split Britain as quickly and dramatically as Brexit. It did more to divide these isles than the Roman conquerors, Meghan Markle, even me. For 6 years, politics in this country was no longer about Conservatives or Labour, right or left. It was leave or remain. Friends broke up over it. Families split up over it. But voters are moving on. UKIP was wiped off the political map at last week's local elections. It now has precisely 0 elected representatives anywhere in the country. Reform UK, the rebranded Brexit party, averaged just 6% of the vote and won just 6 councillors nationwide. In short, when it comes to Brexit, it does seem like most of us are just over it. But as much as voters have moved on, Britain, sadly, has not. We have the worst performing G7 economy. Even Russia will grow faster this year. Every other major economy faced the same pandemic, the same war in Europe, the same rocketing inflation and cost of living crises. But nobody else had Brexit on top of it. The long-promised tidal wave of Brexit benefits peaked with blue passports and now seems to be petering into a putrid puddle. Even the Grand Master of Brexit himself, Nigel Farage, now says this.
We haven't actually benefited from Brexit economically when we could have done. I mean, what Brexit's proved, I'm afraid, is that our politicians are about as useless as the commissioners in Brussels were. We've mismanaged this totally. And if you look at simple things such as takeovers, such as corporation tax, we are driving business away from our country. Arguably, now we're back in control, we're regulating our own businesses even more than they were as EU members. Brexit has failed.
Brexit has failed. No benefits of Brexit. This is the guy that sold it to us, Nigel Farage. And it's hard to argue with him. We were promised Brexit would mean control of the borders, but immigration is way up. There's a migrant crisis in the Channel. We were promised glorious free trade deals. It would be the easiest deals in human history. Where are they? We were told that 5,000 EU laws would be spectacularly scrubbed from the statute books as we wrestle control back of our sovereign democracy. In fact, it's going to be more like 600. And I haven't found a single person who can explain what difference it'll make. Full disclosure, I didn't think Brexit was a good idea and I voted against it. But I also respected the democratic will of the people, unlike some of the more ardent Ramonas. And I later voted for Boris Johnson's Conservative government because they were the only people in that 29 election prepared to honour the result of the referendum and therefore to honour democracy. If you don't accept the results of elections or referenda, then you're not a democracy and you can't be a Democrat. Now, more and more people are changing their minds. The evidence that it isn't working is piling up. And it's probably time to have a serious grown-up debate on what we do about this. And a reminder, Nigel Farage, who says Brexit has failed, well, he originally said this.
If Brexit is a disaster, I will go and live abroad. I'll go and live somewhere else.
Well, off you go then. I'll keep hearing that Rwanda's rather nice at this time of year, Nige.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below, let me know what you think. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, and you can also hit the notification button.